Hello and welcome to last episode of Rings of Power Season 1 Breakdown. This is CinemaBigWaves. At the beginning of the episode, before the credits, we find out that these three creatures are loyal to Morgoth and the Servants of Fire, because they have the power of magic along with phase shifting. Well, at the very beginning, the importance of Harfoot's storyline is also clear, which is due to the introduction of Mysterious Man's character. At first, the writers mislead us that he is Sauron.
Tulil men noritas. Haru Sauron.
The same mistake made by these three Maiars was probably due to a mistake in prophecy. Now, it can be said with certainty that this mysterious man is none other than our own beloved Gandalf. Now, why Gandalf? Because of the following reasons. One is that when Gandalf fights with these three Maiars, they start torturing him by spinning and throwing him, which is reminiscent of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, when Saruman wanted to torture Gandalf. The second fact is that Gandalf says a dialogue to three Maiars.
From shadow you came. To shadow I bid you return.
This is a reference to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where Gandalf tells him to return to shadow.
Go back to the shadow.
The third reason is that at the end of the fight, Gandalf transforms those three Maiars into butterflies. This also refers to Gandalf's relationship with butterflies in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. When Gandalf was prisoner in Saruman's tower, he whispered into a butterfly's ear and released it. The next reason is that the journey that Gandalf starts with Nori is reminiscent of the journey in Gandalf goes with Bilbo and Frodo, two hobbits who are descendants of Harfoots. The next reason is the great interest and faith that Gandalf has in hobbits, which can be seen here. And finally, a point that can be a confirmation about the authenticity of this man is Gandalf when he tells Nori,
"When in doubt, Eleanor Brandyfoot. Always follow your nose."
If you remember, Gandalf says the same dialogue to Frodo in the Mine of Moria. If you wonder why Gandalf is young and seems to be learning everything, I must say that Gandalf is a young and incognizant Istar here, because he just came to Earth. At the beginning of their creation, the Istars appear as an adult man, and then slowly get older. Well, now that we know this creature is Gandalf, it becomes clear why the moment he came to Earth was so important. Because Gandalf is going to unite all creatures against Sauron in the future. Because of this, Gandalf becomes the connection link of all storylines. What I liked about the introduction of the Gandalf's character was that the authors don't actually say that this creature is the same Gandalf, but with the facts and the last dialogue, it's as if they're giving a prize to the Lord of the Rings fans who also read the novel. And by doing this, they are giving the fans a reward. They should be happy that their guess was right. Next, we will go with Celebrimbor. Probably the first moment Halbrand comes to Celebrimbor, almost all Lord of the Rings fans are sure that he is Sauron. Because Sauron helps Celebrimbor to make the Rings of Power. The next scenes are more to clarify and explain the situation. At the end of their conversation, Halbrand tells Celebrimbor,
"Call it a gift."
Which is another indication of Halbrand's Sauron status. This has a reference to the fact that Sauron was known as Lord of the Gifts, who is going to give many gifts to humans in the future. When we continue to Numenor, we see that Farazôn is preparing himself for the kingdom, and probably later, when the Queen and Elendil return to Numenor, with the Queen becoming blind, the conditions are perfect for Farazôn to be the king. In the next scene, we see Eärien going to the Orb of Palantir. Eärien is probably going to play an important role in uniting Numenor with faith. In the same sequence, when Celebrimbor tells Gil-galad that we are building a power that is not equal to the others and everyone surrenders, Galadriel's doubt goes to Halbrand. This dialogue is the same as Sauron's goal that Galadriel heard from Adar. When Halbrand notices Galadriel's doubt about himself, he threatens her that you brought me here and it is her responsibility not to investigate further about his character. Next we go to Nuri and the mysterious man who is Gandalf. In this exciting sequence, Gandalf finds himself with the light of hope and defeats the Maiars. When Gandalf sends some magic towards them, they look like skeletons and Nazguls. If you remember, when the Nazguls attacked Frodo in The Lord of the Rings and he gave him the ring, he saw the Nazguls like this. This is probably because their souls and those souls are captive to darkness. At the end of this sequence, Sadok, who has a deep wound, is on the verge of death. Even though the Harfoots, according to their tradition, leave whoever is left behind, they stay by Sadok's side. This reward is the same love that he gave to Nuri and his father, who returns to himself and dies in peace. In the continuation, Halbrand, or should we say Sauron, infertilates Galadriel's mind and tries to mislead her and drag her into darkness. First, he takes the form of her brother and changes what her brother told him, that to reach the first light, you have to touch the darkness. After Galadriel resists, the atmosphere changes and Halbrand's face reappears and tries to tempt her. Sauron tells Galadriel,
I would make you a queen, fair as the sea and the sun, stronger than the foundations of the earth.
And this word plants the seed of something in Galadriel. The temptation that when she sees Frodo later and wants to take the ring is still involved. When Frodo takes the ring to Galadriel, she says the same dialogue. Later, Galadriel gives her dagger to Celebrimbor to melt and combine with Mithril. This dagger is a metaphor for her anger and hatred that has brought her here, the uncontrollable rage that caused Galadriel to trust Sauron and brought him here. At the end of the episode, Galadriel throws the dagger, which is a symbol of hatred, into the fire and destroys it, turning it from a destructive object into saving object for the elves. When Mithril is melted, it somehow takes the form of Sauron's eye, which can be said to be a sign that later Sauron will gain power over all other rings by making another one. The image of the three rings dissolves to Sauron staring at Mordor, which shows what events Sauron is going to bring about later. Sauron is now in Mordor and is going to either unite with Adar or defeat and destroy him. Let's wait for the next season to find that out. At the end of the episode, in the credits, the song describes Galadriel dialogues in the first trilogy of The Lord of the Rings and the writings on the Ring of Power that refers to the future events. Well, thank you for being with us by reviewing these 8 episodes. We hope that we have met your expectations to some extent with these episodes. The cast and crew went back to work in early October 2022. We wouldn't expect anything until the end of 2023, but if we're being more realistic, spring 2024 is more likely. Write us your opinion about this season of Lord of the Rings series Rings of Power in the comments and wait for our next analysis for new movies and series. For now, you can watch our reviews on House of Dragon and movies like The Northman, Top Gun Maverick and Everything Everyone all at once.